Hello, arts directors and campus pastors. Eric Bramlett giving you the skinny on all things Celebration Generosity. It's the big Sunday, y'all. We're very, very excited about it. We want to get all of our ducks in a row, so I'm going to try to describe to you as best as possible the way that things should go. This service flow, in terms of the catalyst flow being brought over to your campus flow, is a little bit more of a narrative, a beginning, middle, and end. You'll notice that it does recommend a specific order. And this is important because of the way that the videos work. So this order is more important than, say, other weeks where these items are kind of available and we kind of pick and choose and we kind of place things in certain ways. So hopefully I'm getting this video to you early enough for you to be able to embrace that. And as I describe things to you, if there are things that you need clarity about or you're curious about, please let me know. All of our videos are in current stages of development and editing. And so we're in the process of putting them together, but as you know, video stacks up pretty heavy for Celebration Generosity, so we're definitely finding ourselves up against some pretty intense deadlines and work product volume. A lot of volume here, but it's great stuff. It's really, really good stuff. So I'm going to talk about starting the service with a worship set. One up-tempo song that gets things going, and then a nice little welcome, maybe from a campus pastor type, to be able to say, welcome to community. Today is Celebration Generosity. Woohoo, woohoo. Yeah, that's awesome. You've come on a great day. So stick around. We're going to sing a couple songs, and you're not going to want to miss it. This isn't an announcement time. This is just a welcome. And then we kick back in. One song, maybe in medium tempo land or still up, and then your second song is probably gearing towards a more reflective kind of moment because we are choosing to actually take communion together through video and to do so early. Strategically, I think from a spiritual standpoint, I think you can make the case that it helps us to get the right things in order to put the first thing first, our relationship with Jesus. We come together to celebrate who he is through communion. Let's take care of that right now together as a family. And then later, strategically, it gives us more of an opportunity to allow the high point of the moments at the end of the service to be connected to the giving, to the offering, to our generosity, okay, so that those aren't necessarily competing elements. So it's a strategic move, but I think you can also make the case that it's a potentially spiritually healthy move as well. But after that song, we go cold into the Dave and John intro video. And this is where they're doing exactly that. They're welcoming people to Celebration Generosity. We filmed Dave and John near kind of a rooftop in Old Town where you could really see very nicely the skyline of Chicago. So it's a great spot for all of our locations to be able to enjoy and say, oh, that's where I'm from, even though we're not. We're from 30 miles west. But we still think that. We still think that we're there. And it's really, really good stuff. But they actually start by encouraging us to take communion together. And so Dave and John then segue to a video. This video will run in real time, but we'll have them separated, and I'll explain why in a minute. But they will segue to a video that is a video of several leaders from the four teams who are reading Paul's account of the Lord's Supper, the communion story from 1 Corinthians. And so it's a simple NIV reading that takes place. And it's people like Kirsten and Jeff and Winnie Pacina and Patrick. And they're just kind of interplaying back and forth, reading that verse. And here's what we're going to do with that video piece. We're going to include one version that has some background music, and then we're going to include one that does not have any background music. I think my first choice for you is to actually underscore that video live, and here's why. That video is designed to be during the time where people are passing the communion elements and then holding them. Now, some of you have locations where you go and pick up communion and bring it back to your seat. I think depending on the size of your crowd, that is potentially still viable, but we want people to come back to their seats then and take the communion together, because what's going to happen after this is we're going to come back to Dave and John, and they're going to have the communion elements in their hand, and they're going to lead us through video in taking those elements together. It's kind of a high concept piece, but we want you to have flexibility in terms of this video scripture reading, knowing that not everyone is going to be able to, and it's a short passage. You know, we'll do a little bit of overlap, a little bit of repeating, a little bit of slowing down the moment, but at the end of the day, this is not going to be like a 5-minute video. So you may need that room for people to underscore underneath, etc. And so that's why we have it kind of in 2 different versions. But some of you, it may be fine to exist exactly like it is, or you would prefer not to keep the band up, or whatever. So you've got that option as far as that goes. Then we head back to Dave and John. Like I said, they lead us in taking the communion elements together, and then away we go with the content from Celebration Generosity. Dave and John will segue to a documentary style experience of the 4 teams. Now, in previous years, we had separated the 4 teams by their teamness and then told one story here, next story, next story, next story. This year, we're doing 2 chunks. One is sort of all the transformation we've seen thus far, and then another chunk is the transformation we think is possible in the future. So this first chunk is all 4 teams, mix and match, experiencing and getting to see the transformation that has occurred. That's really that first chunk, first documentary chunk, what in Planning Center we're calling Video Part 1. Okay? When that Video Part 1 concludes, it's an opportunity for your campus pastor or host to enter and be able to communicate, as Kirsten has already done so via email, which specific Restore Community team your campus is giving towards. And so you should have information about those teams and be able to communicate that. If for some reason you're missing that information, Kirsten has directed you where to go to get that. And that should be no more than 3 minutes, because all you are doing is communicating, hey, and I just want to let you know, we saw some things, some great things that are happening in East Aurora. Our campus is in support of what's happening in East Aurora. The offerings that we give today will go directly to Community 412 in East Aurora. Or you're saying, same thing, but Community 412 Joliet. Or you're saying, same thing, but Friends of Swift. All right, those are the 3 options that are out on the table. And so those are the possibilities that you would use in that moment. But it is not a sermon opportunity. It is not a launching pad for another discussion. It is simply a clarification in that moment to be able to say, hey, I want to let you know, here's where our generosity is headed on this for this offering today. And now back to Dave and John, because then we're going to come back to Dave and John. Dave and John are really going to tackle the content of Transform and how we have an opportunity to transform the world. How we were kind of given a version of what a dream might be like in this American dream, but that we can see that when we look at it, when we look at God's dream, it's drastically different than what the American dream is promising us. And so it's very good, clear content. Then that segues to our second part of documentary style testimony from the 4 teams. And this one is getting to that emotional point. It's getting to that hopeful moment, getting to that place. And so we immediately move from that video to the People of God song. So you'll have a countdown. You'll know exactly how many minutes it requires to be ready to sing People of God live together. Most of you will be or should be using the click track because we are still kind of crossing our fingers and praying that the team from Nairobi is going to be able to send video content. Jeff Boris, Chris, Pat, lots of other people are working furiously on that to make that happen. So kudos to you and thank you. That'll be a B-roll video where you can put your lyrics for People of God on top of it on ProPresenter. And then when we get to that point, it should move right into the place where now we're singing along. Make sure you practice that and make sure you are confident about the key that you are playing in so that when we have that moment, it works and we don't have to dump out of it or mute out of it. that song is so triumphant and so magical and just amazing that when you get out of it, you are right ready to give. And so I would say, even when that campus pastor comes up after the people of God, I would strongly suggest that you keep that underscoring going. Keep it musical, because if you keep it a musical moment, it stays an emotional moment. And this is where you're saying, this is it. It's celebration generosity. It's time to give. The ushers are ready. We're excited to give to these 4 teams. Let's do it right now, church. Let's go. And then we start the song Go, which has been one of the suggestions. Not everybody necessarily has to do that, but we're definitely looking for up-tempo coming out of people of God. Now, for those of you who really are passionate about keeping everybody seated while the offering is taking place, might I make a suggestion that you encourage your attenders, as they're passing the bag and still seated, to be clapping along with the music, that it's a fun way to keep the energy up even though they're not standing. And then once that offering has completed, your worship leader can quickly ask people to stand up. Some environments, they don't have a problem. They've got enough space. They can see everything, and they can have everybody standing from the very beginning, celebrating, clapping, and sending the offering along the way. That should conclude the service. Okay, and so that's so long, everybody. And so now you sort of see why it's so important to move that communion to before the other creative content, and why we made that decision. I am so proud of the work that's been put into making Celebration Generosity possible. So thank you so much, arts directors who took extra time to make sure that this People of God moment could work. Thanks to Michael and Alec and Sherry and all of the members of the 4 teams for making themselves available to be filmed, to be interviewed. I hope that God does an amazing work. And just remember, again, as you're praying for this, be praying for those newcomers. Be praying for those who have never given before, because I guarantee you, you're going to have new givers on Sunday. Be praying that they give generously. Be praying that it becomes so clear to them that God is blessing them, and pray that as a result, they are inspired to grow in their generosity and consider consistent giving. We do that because we want that to be something that they experience, not because we need something, but because we know that they will get something as a result. All right, if you have any questions about this, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be supplementing details with email as it becomes available and clear. So stay tuned for updates as they are warranted or necessary. And we're going to have ourselves a fantastic Celebration Generosity. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.